The honest answer is that we do not know if dinosaurs mated for life, and anyone who says they definitely did is doing the prehistoric version of gossiping over a fence. Dinosaurs did not leave love letters, divorce records, or awkward family photos. They left bones, eggs, nests, tracks, scratches in the dirt, and occasionally a fossil so well preserved it feels like nature accidentally paused a documentary at the perfect frame. From that, paleontologists can say a lot about dinosaur reproduction. They can say dinosaurs laid eggs, they can say some species nested in groups, they can say some adults guarded or brooded nests. They can say some dinosaurs probably showed off to attract mates. What they cannot say with confidence is that a male and female Triceratops met young, stayed together for 40 years, raised multiple clutches, and never once looked at another horned face across the floodplain. That does not mean the idea is stupid. It just means the answer has to be split into two parts. Did some dinosaurs form pair bonds? Very possibly. Did some of those pair bonds last for a breeding season or maybe several seasons? Also possible. Did dinosaurs as a whole mate for life? Almost certainly not. Dinosaurs were not one animal. They were a massive group spread across more than 160 million years, from chicken-sized runners to animals the size of apartment buildings. Asking if dinosaurs mated for life is a little like asking if mammals mate for life. Some do, most do not. A wolf, a gorilla, a mouse, a dolphin, and a drunk raccoon behind a restaurant are all mammals, but they are not running the same relationship model. The closest living comparison we have is birds, because birds are living dinosaurs. That matters. If we want to guess what non-avian dinosaurs might have done, birds are usually more useful than lizards. Crocodilians also help because they are close relatives inside the larger archosaur family, but birds are the direct surviving dinosaur line. And birds make the question more complicated, not simpler. Many birds form pair bonds. Some stay with the same partner for a season. Some return to the same partner year after year. Some large birds, especially ones where raising the young is difficult, can keep long partnerships. But even in birds that look monogamous from the outside, genetic studies often show that the social partner is not always the genetic father of every chick. In normal words, the nest can look like a stable little family unit, while the DNA is quietly laughing in the corner. That distinction is the key. Mating for life can mean a few different things. It can mean two animals stay together socially, it can mean they raise young together, it can mean they only mate with each other. Those are not the same thing. In nature, an animal can have a partner, defend a nest with that partner, feed young with that partner, and still mate outside the pair bond. Nature is very efficient, but it is not very romantic. It does not care about wedding vows. It cares about surviving long enough to reproduce and getting enough offspring into the next generation. If a bond helps that happen, the bond can exist. If cheating helps that happen, cheating can exist too. The animal kingdom has no shame. It barely has a complaints department. For dinosaurs, the best evidence for something like pair behavior comes from nests and parental care. Some dinosaur nesting sites show repeated use of the same area. Some show many nests together, which suggests colonial nesting. Some oviraptorid fossils show adults positioned over eggs in a way that looks very similar to bird brooding. That is not a small thing. An animal sitting on eggs is investing time, energy, and risk. It cannot forage as easily. It is exposed. It is protecting the future instead of just walking away after mating. That tells us some dinosaurs did more than drop eggs and leave. At least in some groups, reproduction involved care. But parental care does not automatically mean mating for life. A father can guard eggs without staying with one female forever. A mother can defend a nest without having a long-term partner. A breeding pair can cooperate for one season and then choose different mates the next season. In fact, some evidence from theropod dinosaurs has been interpreted as possible paternal care in a system that may have been polygamous. That means one adult, possibly the male, may have cared for a clutch that could include eggs from more than one female. If that is right, then some dinosaurs were doing almost the opposite of lifelong romance. The male might have been less like a devoted husband and more like the exhausted manager of an egg daycare. Courtship evidence also points away from one simple answer. Some theropod scrape marks have been interpreted as display behavior, similar to what some modern ground nesting birds do. The idea is that males may have gathered in display areas, scraped the ground, kicked up dirt, and showed off for females. Basically, dinosaur courtship may have included dancing badly with confidence, which is still the foundation of nightlife today. If these scrape sites really were display arenas, then they suggest competition for mates. That kind of behavior often fits a system where females choose among displaying males, not necessarily a system where stable, lifelong couples quietly mind their own business. This would make sense. Many dinosaurs had features that look useful for display: crests, frills, plates, horns, bright-looking structures we can no longer see the color of, and shapes that seem too dramatic to be only practical. A Triceratops frill might have had defensive value, but it also may have helped signal size, health, age, or species identity. A hadrosaur crest may have helped with sound and display. A Ceratosaurus horn or a strange theropod crest could have been part of visual signaling. When animals evolve big showy structures, mating behavior is usually somewhere in the room. Maybe not the only reason, but it is hard to keep it out of the conversation. Nature does not build a giant head ornament just so the animal can feel modest. For large plant-eating dinosaurs, lifelong mating seems even harder to prove. Many likely lived in herds, moved across large areas, and reproduced seasonally. In herd animals today, long-term pair bonding is often uncommon unless the species has a strong reason for it. A huge sauropod laying a large number of eggs probably did not need a tight two-parent household in the same way an albatross chick might. A sauropod was not sitting at the nest discussing school choices. Many big dinosaurs may have used a numbers strategy, lay many eggs, maybe choose a nesting area, and let survival sort out the rest. That sounds cold, but if your babies hatch into a world full of predators, floods, disease, and other dinosaurs with no interest in your personal happiness, quantity starts to look like a plan. Smaller theropods are where the strongest case for pair bonds probably lives. They were closer to birds in body plan and behavior. Some may have brooded eggs, some may have guarded nests, some may have had more complex courtship. For these dinosaurs, a seasonal pair bond is very believable. A male and female could have paired for a breeding period, defended a nest, and stayed together long enough to improve the survival odds of the eggs or hatchlings. That is not mating for life, but it is still meaningful. It is the difference between a lifelong marriage and a very serious temporary business partnership where the business is preventing tiny dinosaurs from becoming lunch. Could any dinosaur species have mated for life in the stricter sense? Yes, it is possible. There is no rule saying they could not. Some modern birds form long-term partnerships, and since birds are dinosaurs, the behavior is at least biologically plausible somewhere in the dinosaur family tree. If a non-avian dinosaur species had low reproductive rates, difficult nesting conditions, high parental investment, or young that needed protection, long-term pair bonds could have been useful. The problem is that possible is not the same as proven. A fossil nest can show care. A pair of adults buried near each other can suggest association. Repeated nesting can suggest site fidelity. None of that gives us a clean answer about whether the same two individuals chose each other every year until one died. There is also the problem of fossil bias. Behavior is one of the hardest things to fossilize. Bones fossilize, teeth fossilize, eggs fossilize, tracks fossilize if the mud gets lucky. But relationships do not fossilize neatly. If two dinosaurs stayed together for life, the ground would not automatically record that. If one cheated, the rock would not hold a press conference. To prove lifelong monogamy, scientists would need something close to repeated evidence from the same individuals across time, or genetic data from offspring showing consistent parentage. For non-avian dinosaurs, we do not have that. Ancient DNA from those time depths is not available in the way it would need to be for this question. So the strongest answer has to remain careful. The most realistic answer is that dinosaur mating systems varied a lot. Some species probably had brief mating encounters with little or no pair bond. Some probably gathered at display grounds, competed, mated, and moved on. Some probably formed seasonal pairs. Some may have reused nesting sites and showed parental care. A smaller number may have had long-term pair bonds, especially among bird-like theropods, but that remains a reasonable guess rather than a proven fact. The dinosaur world was too large and too diverse for one rule. There was no universal dinosaur dating system, no single prehistoric app where every species selected looking for something serious. So did dinosaurs mate for life? As a group, probably not. Some may have formed long partnerships, but the evidence does not let us say that confidently for most non-avian dinosaurs. The safest answer is that many dinosaurs probably mated more like modern animals in general, whatever worked for that species, in that environment with that body, that nesting style, and that level of parental care. The bird-like ones are the best candidates for pair bonds. The display-heavy ones may have been more competitive. The giant egg layers may have cared less about romance and more about producing enough young that a few survived the meat grinder of the Mesozoic. The final answer is simple. Dinosaurs probably did not generally mate for life, but some species may have had seasonal or even long-term pair bonds. We just cannot prove the lifelong part. The fossils give us nests, eggs, brooding courtship, and hints of care. They do not give us devotion, and that is probably fitting. Dinosaurs were not symbols of perfect prehistoric romance. They were animals trying to survive, reproduce, and avoid being eaten in a world where even the plants looked hostile. Some may have stayed together. Some probably moved on immediately. Some may have danced, scraped the ground, guarded eggs, and then disappeared into the next breeding season like nothing happened. Which, for an animal with teeth the size of knives and a brain mostly focused on survival, is about as romantic as the fossil record was ever going to get.